The doors sealed behind me with a heavy metallic sound, and I knew right away that something was wrong. I was not supposed to be in this part of the palace. No outsider was. Yet here I stood, alone, on a narrow stone balcony, and somewhere behind the wall, I could hear armored footsteps stopping, then turning, then moving fast toward my location. My name is Daniel Ashworth. I was part of the human trade delegation visiting the Vesca Compact, an alien civilization built from glass towers and glowing canals, ruled by a queen that almost nobody was allowed to speak to directly. I had gotten separated from my group during the reception inside the Grand Hall. One wrong turn, one door that should not have opened, and now I was standing in a restricted section of the royal palace, with no guide and no idea how to get out. The footsteps grew louder. My heart was pounding. I turned toward the sound, expecting soldiers, expecting to be dragged away and questioned, maybe worse. Instead, the door slid open, and a figure stepped onto the balcony ahead of the guards, tall, draped in deep violet robes, moving with the kind of stillness that only comes from years of control. It was her, the Queen Regnant of the Vesica Compact, Ossiel Vontar Cathis, third of her name. She stopped when she saw me. Her guards were right behind the door, weapons ready, waiting for one word from her to move. I raised my hands slowly, my pulse hammering in my ears. "I got lost," I said. "I swear, that is the whole story." She studied me for a long moment. Her eyes were unlike anything I had seen before, a deep violet color, faceted like the eyes of an insect but soft around the edges, catching the light from the glowing canals below in slow ripples of blue and green. According to the briefing files, Vesca eyes evolved for hunting in dark caves generations ago. There was nothing romantic about the biology, but looking at her in that moment, with the light moving across her face, I forgot every fact from the briefing. "You should not be here," she said, her voice flat and careful, the voice of someone trained never to say a wrong word. "This section is forbidden to outsiders." "I figured that out about 30 seconds ago," I said. "Believe me, I am trying to leave." Behind her, one of the guards shifted his weapon slightly, waiting for a signal. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. One wrong sentence from me, and this could end badly. I knew that. Every book on Vesca diplomacy warned about the danger of offending the royal family, about how quickly a misstep could turn into an incident between two species. I should have stayed quiet. I should have apologized and asked to be escorted out. Instead, I looked at her eyes again, and the words came out before I could stop them. "Your eyes are beautiful." The silence that followed felt like the whole palace had stopped breathing. The guards froze in the doorway, not with the tension of an attack, but with confusion, as if a sound had happened that did not match anything they had trained for. The queen did not move. Her hand, resting near the railing, closed slowly into a fist. "Ambassador," she said, her voice suddenly thinner than before, "do you understand what you have just said?" "That I like your eyes," I said carefully. "I think that is a fairly simple statement." "No." She turned fully toward me now, and for the first time I saw something crack behind her calm expression. "Do you understand what that means, here, for someone to say that to me?" I admitted that I did not. She stepped closer, and I noticed her eyes were beginning to glow faintly brighter, a soft, trembling shine that had not been there a moment ago. She looked almost angry about it, blinking hard, as if trying to force the light back down through sheer will. "No one has said that to me since the day I was crowned," she said. 22 years. My eyes are spoken of in council reports, in health examinations, in marriage negotiations, when foreign houses study whether my bloodline is strong enough, sharp enough, whether my children will hunt well in the deep caves our people abandoned 6 generations ago. Every person who has ever looked into my eyes has been measuring something, calculating something. No one has ever simply looked at them and called them pretty. "They are, though," I said, and I knew I should stop talking, but I did not. "Pretty" is actually an understatement. I have seen distant stars that were less interesting than your eyes right now. The glow in her eyes spiked so suddenly that one of the guards broke formation and stepped forward, weapon raised halfway, scanning the balcony for a threat his instruments clearly could not find. The only thing happening was that his queen, the most powerful person in the entire compact, Looked like she might show emotion in front of her own soldiers for the first time in her adult life. She raised one hand without even looking at him. A small, sharp gesture. The guard stepped back immediately, as if struck. "You humans," she said quietly, "say things you should not be permitted to say." "We really do," I admitted. "Terrible at strategy, historically. Excellent at blurting out compliments at the worst possible moment." For a brief second, something close to a smile crossed her face. She lifted the back of her hand to her cheek, checking whether the glow in her eyes was visible enough for her guards to notice. It clearly was. She straightened her posture, folded her hands in front of her, and the calm ruler returned, like armor sliding back into place. "You will not speak of this to anyone in your delegation," she said. "Understood," I said. Not a word. "And you will remain lost," she added, turning back toward the canals, "for exactly as long as I decide you should be." I stood beside her at the railing, not quite believing what had just happened. Below us, the canals shimmered with slow waves of blue light, reflecting off the towers of the city. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The guards remained near the door, unsure whether to relax or stay alert, clearly confused by the sudden change in the room. "You realize," she finally said, "that what you did could be considered a serious violation. A foreign representative speaking about the physical appearance of the Queen Regnant, without invitation, without formal permission. There are laws about this." "I did not know there were laws about eye compliments," I said. "In my defense, nobody warned me." "There are laws about everything involving me," she said, and for the first time, there was something tired in her voice, something that sounded almost human. "Every word directed at me becomes policy. Every reaction I show becomes precedent. I am not permitted mistakes. I am not permitted surprise. And yet here I am, standing on this balcony, glowing like a young hatchling because a human ambassador told me my eyes were pretty. For what it is worth," I said, "I think that is a good thing, not the rules being broken part. The other part. The part where you got to feel something, without a committee deciding if it was appropriate first." She looked at me for a long moment, studying my face the way she might study a report she did not fully trust yet. "You are either very brave," she said, "or very foolish." "Probably both," I said. "Ask anyone who knows me." A quiet laugh escaped her, short and surprised, as if she had not planned on making that sound, and was not entirely sure what to do with it now that it existed. The guards near the door exchanged a glance, clearly more shocked by the laugh than by anything else that had happened so far. "No one has heard that sound from me in a very long time," she said, almost to herself. "Then I guess today was a day of firsts," I said, "getting lost, almost getting arrested, making a queen laugh, not bad for one reception." She turned back toward the canals, and this time, when the silence returned, it did not feel dangerous anymore. It felt calm, almost comfortable, like two people simply sharing a view. "I should have you escorted back to your delegation," she said. "Probably," I agreed, "though if you are in no rush, I am not exactly complaining about the company." She did not answer right away. Instead, she stayed exactly where she was, watching the glowing water below, her eyes still holding that faint, unshaken brightness. And for a long moment, neither of us moved, neither of us spoke, and neither of us wanted the moment to end. Eventually, she gave a small nod to the guards, a signal that the danger, if there had ever truly been one, was over. They lowered their weapons and stepped back into position along the corridor, though their eyes kept darting toward their queen with quiet confusion, trying to understand what exactly they had just witnessed. "Ambassador Ashworth," she said finally, turning to face me one last time before the guards would lead me away. "It seems you have caused quite a disturbance today." "I get that a lot," I said. "Usually it involves less royalty and less almost getting shot, but the basic idea is the same." She allowed herself one more small smile, brief but real, before straightening into the composed ruler the rest of her world expected to see. "Do not get lost again," she said, though her tone made it sound less like a warning and more like an invitation. "No promises," I said, and let the guards lead me back through the long corridors of the palace, my heart still racing, though not from fear anymore,